I kind of just got to a point where I got fed up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to show them that I'm worth more than a coordinator. I'm going to make my own damn show and no one's going to be able to stop me. So that's what I did.
Welcome to Creative Chutzpah. My name is Leonard Samuels. I'll be co-hosting with Rico Nasal, where we'll be interviewing artists and business owners in the world of creative. We hope you enjoy.
Cool. Welcome back to another episode of Creative Chutzpah. I'm your host, Rico Nasal, with co-host Leonard Samuels. And today we have a wonderful guest, Farnas Esnaashari. She owns a consulting service called Pitch Dox, which we'll get into later for you folks that are interested and curious about what that is. She's also an author and a showrunner. And then she's also the president of content and development at Platinum Films. Farnas, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's so good to see you on video face-to-face, right?
It's the future.
Yeah.
Like Leonard always says, like our lives are now converted to these 2x4 boxes.
Right? I was just updating my LinkedIn and it was like, is this remote, hybrid, or on-site? I was like, isn't everything hybrid now? I guess hybrid.
Right. So jumping right in, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey as a creative. You do a lot of things, author, showrunner. Now you're helping other people pitch their content.
Yes.
So what got you excited about creative and how'd you get to where you are today?
So, I mean, excited about creative is that's a big question because it's like, I don't think there was ever a time that I wasn't excited about creative. For as long as I can remember, since I was little, I've always been drawing, painting, making, creating, similar to my daughter. And I remember when I was, I want to say 3, my best friend had her tonsils removed. And I remember sitting at my little Crayola table. It was like crowns and like a table. The table was yellow. The seats were red and blue. And I sat there and I made 3D cutouts out of construction paper, flower bouquet, sprayed them with perfume, and went to go visit her. So like in terms of what got me excited about creative, I mean, it's the only thing that really ever got me excited about anything at all, right? So, and it didn't matter what it was, even if it was like making my own clothes, which I've got some right here from like back in the day. And whatever it was, I was creating and making. And you know, school was always kind of not easy, right? And those kids who are like, you know, those kids in high school who, and you guys may have been one of them, who were like taking the SATs and knew exactly what they wanted to go to school for. Yeah. Right? You know, yeah. Okay. Never.
Not me. I took the SATs, but I definitely did not know what I wanted to do.
Never in my life have I been jealous or envious of anyone except that moment. Because I remember feeling the pressure going, I don't know. Am I supposed to know? I have no idea. What do I do? And so I didn't take the SATs. And I was like, no way. I'm not doing it. And they're like, why aren't you taking it? I was like, well, I'm going to go to a JC, so I don't need it. So I went to JC, started taking art classes. And, you know, that's when it really clicked. Like for the first time ever, I started taking them in high school, but not the same way as junior college.
Which JC did you go to?
I went to Irvine Valley College. So my first 2 years were
out there. Yeah.
I grew up in Orange County.
Okay.
Then my first 2 years were there, and I started taking all the like creative writing. I took a 3D class, which I thought was 3D modeling, but we were sawing and I was in my little heels and I was like, okay, this is what it is. And so it was like 3D expressionism. I had to go inside a box and do weird stuff, but it was fun. I had to build the box too. But yeah, so once I started taking those courses, like I really fell in love with the process of being creative in every element. And so the movie, I'm dating myself here, but the movie Toy Story, the first one, came out in movie theaters. And I was at the movies with my mom and brothers. We were watching some other movie and I walked out to go to the bathroom and I was like, snuck in to Toy Story. And I sat in that very, very back row. And I just remember, this is going to sound so stupid, but I just remember I started sobbing. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. So I come back to college and they're like, hey, so you're going to transfer. What do you want your degree to be in? And I was like, well, I really love that movie. And they're like, that's called animation. I was like, great, I'll go to school for animation.
Oh, wow.
So I said, I'm the most spontaneous planner you will ever meet. I am a walking contradiction all the time. And so I went to school for animation. I switched over to Cal State Fullerton. And I mean, I don't know if you've ever done their animation program, but back then it was a beast. And I ended up, I don't know if this is legal, but I ended up quitting my job and sleeping in the classroom for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Things were so insane. And that's when I realized, okay, time out. I don't like this part of it. I don't like someone over my shoulder giving me a deadline for my creativity and when to do it. So
that's such an artist thing to say, by the way.
I know, right? so then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to learn. I started taking this editing class and I went into post-production. So from there, I was like, this is fun too. And I got an internship at Nickelodeon as their first ever post-production. Again, dating myself, guys. This is all makeup and hairspray. But again, so first ever intern for post-production at Nickelodeon. So I went there. And, you know, the crazy thing about an internship is you don't realize how much you don't know until you're there. And so school was great at teaching the fundamentals of animation and teaching essentially, you know, the tenacity and grit that it took to get those deadlines done and working with a team. It taught me a lot. But when I got there, then I realized, oh, wow, the jobs are so specific, you know, like this person just cleans up the drawings. This person does a rough sketch. Wow, this is not what I thought it was at all. But I fell in love with Nick and I was like, okay, I have to be here. So I finished my school. I graduated like magna cum laude, all of that.
Casual.
I told you, I loved it. I really took to it. I went from struggling in school to like, you couldn't rip me away. And so I moved out of my mom's house and I was like, I'm leaving. She's like, where are you going? I'm like, I have to move to LA. I'm going to work at Nickelodeon. And she's like, did they hire you? I was like, no, but I'm going to be there. And I'm going to work there and I have to live closer if I'm going to work there.
Right.
So I went, like I said, the most spontaneous planner you're ever going to meet. And about 2-3 weeks later, I got hired. So I went on to work as production assistant on My Life as a Teenage Robot. And again,
great show.
That was my first one. Did that for about 6 months. And then again, like I said, this will be the theme of this podcast. Decided I don't like renting. This is not for me. I'm going to buy a house. I'm like 22 years old. I've barely moved out. And I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, I'm buying a house.
Oh, no, these are bold statements you're saying here. These are high bars.
I know. And so I did it. And then I had taken a huge pay cut to work at Nickelodeon. So prior to working at Nick, I was living at home with my mom, no rent, no nothing. And I was working commission at Bloomingdale's in Newport Beach, Fashion Island, right? So, and a person like me who's fast on their feet can kind of, you know, look and play the part. I was killing it. I mean, I was crushing it. And so when I went to Nick, it was a huge, like massive pay cut. Like I was making quadruple the amount working part-time in commission than I was as a production assistant. But it didn't matter. That's where I wanted to be, right? And so
necessary sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. And so 6 months in, I bought a house and I was like, I gotta get a second job. Like I was babysitting the artist kids, like on the weekends, whatever I could do, right? Like, and then I got offered post coordinator on Go Diego Go, and of course I had to take it. It was a pay increase, right? Like, but from the minute I got offered it, I was like, oh crap. The only other position after that is post supervisor. Like, then what? I'm going to make it to supervisor. I know me. I'm a hard freaking worker. Like, so what happens when I make it to supervisor? I'm capped. I was like, oh, we'll figure it out later. You need the pay increase. Take it. Let's go. So I said yes. And I mean, I'm kind of jumping ahead of all future questions you're going to ask here, Rico. I'm just like going along with this story.
No, go for it. I'm writing things down along the way. So.
Yeah, stop me if I'm going too far. But from there, I started working as post coordinator on Dora the Explorer, Go Diego Go. I was on Avatar for like a hot minute. I was on Fairly Odd Parents for a hot minute.
Oh, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yes.
Yeah, I was on.
Those super fans out there, calm down.
Yeah, like I said, I was only on it for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Lisa was my supervisor. She was on it full time. I was just training while I was on it. And then I was doing the comedy shorts with Fred Films, so Frederator. So, you know, the show Adventure Time.
Yeah.
So that was at Nickelodeon before it was at Cartoon Network.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and it was one of the Fred Films shorts, and it was actually the one that won the prize money, the contest, because there was like oh my gosh, hundreds and hundreds of tapes would come in, and me and Melissa, who's now the head of Amazon, have to sit there and sort through everything and find all the best content, and then like them together and let fans vote and then run all the numbers and figure out who the winner was.
You were literally getting paid to watch cartoons.
Always. Yeah, which is great.
Happen.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, my dad was like, I want to say I was like 16, and he saw me watching cartoons. And he was like, you're too old to be watching these. And I guess I said this to him and I completely forgot. And he reminded me, he's like, do you remember what you said? I was like, no. He's like, you said one day I'm going to make money making my own cartoons, Dad. That's why I watched this. I was like, shit, man, I guess I knew, you know, if only I could remember where I put my ring light for this podcast. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, the best job I could ever have is getting to watch cartoons, right? But yeah, so after that happened, I did that. I was a coordinator, I want to say for like 8 years with no supervisor, and they wouldn't promote me.
Oh my gosh.
And
why do you think that was?
Oh, I don't think I was told.
Do you mind sharing? Because I think that's good.
Sure. This gentleman still works in the industry, so I will leave his name out. But he used to run our studio back then, and you know, he used to say things like, she will be too busy planning her wedding to be a supervisor. You can't promote her just because you think she's cute.
It sounds like a hater.
Yeah. So I heard a lot of things like that, but you know, benefit of the doubt, I always heard it like through my supervisor, not directly from this person. And I was like, okay, well, maybe my supervisor's toying with me too, you know, like when you do a good job at something, sometimes they don't like to move you, right? So I was like, okay, great. And I kind of just got to a point where I got fed up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to show them that I'm worth more than a coordinator. I'm going to make my own damn show, and no one's going to be able to stop me. So that's what I did. Leonard, you don't even know this story.
Everybody at home's like, okay, Farnas, how do you just make your own show?
I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version, right? But it was really, really hard.
For the detail, they got to buy the book, and that's part of it.
Yeah, it was, you know, it started off, I ended up getting to supervisor. And when I did, I went and I said, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And to my face, it was said, well, you have a lot of fans. As in, I didn't want to do it. Your fans made me do it. And I went, Well, I try my best, sir.
What an interesting comment.
Right? And so then flash forward, didn't tell anybody I was developing shows.
Right, yeah.
Didn't say a word.
Under the
Because I was like,
radar.
when there's something to know, you'll know. Until then, you don't need to know anything, right?
Yeah.
And so it's so crazy because I always believe that our hardest moments, right? Those are on purpose. Those and the toughest people. And the reason I tell you about him is because he is actually, as awful as the things he did and said were, he was kind of that Taylor Swift moment. Thank you, Amy. Right? Like he was my Amy. Because if it wasn't for him, he lit the fire under my ass. Right? And so when I went over to Nihao, it was a disaster. I mean, we were on the verge of not making delivery. They were potentially losing millions of dollars. And he said, if she's as good as you say she is, then she'll be fine. I want someone who sees the fire and says, how pretty. I was like, oh, cool, thanks. And so my line producer's like, Farnas, are you sure you want to do this? And I said, look, I don't have a choice. That man is testing me. And no matter what, he wins. Either he gets his show or I fail and he can fire me, right? Like, let's go, game on. Now, little did he know, I used to sleep in the classroom in college to make sure I didn't miss a deadline, right? So I finally get promoted. These are the things you learn, right? But I finally get promoted and I start making less money because now I'm working 80 hours a week and getting paid 40. Now I'm salary and I don't get OT. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
And for that first year, I did it until I got us on track. And when I came in, my executives were like, there were stacks this thick of notes that hadn't been done. And I was like, okay, we've got all of your notes done. I'd like to sit down, go through it with you. I've color coded everything. And they were like, Farnas, you did our notes? I was like, you're the network. Of course we did your notes. And they're like, Farnas, our notes have never been done before. I was like, well, that's a mistake. That shouldn't be happening. And your notes are done. And so we built this really wonderful relationship. And I tell you this, you'll see why. But we built this really wonderful relationship with each other. I got the show on track, and not only on track, about a month ahead of schedule, right? And I was on maternity leave with my firstborn, and a flyer came out. Now, I had decided to pitch my own show prior, but, working 80 hours a week, you really don't have time to do that.
Holy cow.
So I had to set that.
I'm glad I'm already sitting down, but yeah.
I had to set that to the side.
Yeah. When people today hear 80 hours, like, it doesn't sound like it can't be done, but it can be done, but you really have to pull it out of you. That's the difference of how bad do you want. I know Rico is going to talk about a lot of this, but how badly do you want this?
Yeah. And that's the question I always ask. So anyhow, I ended up, they had a big contest at Nickelodeon and they were like, come pitch us your ideas. I literally handed my baby to my neighbor. And I said, can you please watch my baby? I have to go pitch a show idea. And I told my ex-husband, I was like, we've got to pitch an idea. He's like, we don't have an idea. I was like, it doesn't matter. You work on SpongeBob. I work on Dora. Together we can figure this out, And so we sat down, we spent a weekend in this room, actually, right here, right over there. He was in his rocker. We're rocking him. We're typing. We're trying to figure out show ideas and hand the baby to the neighbor and go into the office. And we think we've got an idea. And we're waiting downstairs to go up. And the person who comes down right before us is, oh my God, my stomach dropped. We're going after Butch Hartman, who's the creator of Fairly Odd Parents, The Exes. Like, he was like Nickelodeon, like, royalty, right? And we're like, oh God. So walk in, go up the stairs. Guess what? As fate would have it, the execs from Nihao Kailan were now the heads of Nick Jr. preschool development.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
So he had put me on that show to fail, and he actually inadvertently set me up to succeed, right? So now I've got this relationship already with these two incredible individuals who are now running this division. Like, Farnas, what are you doing? I was like, I'm pitching.
Yeah.
And so from there, it was a very select group of folks we got pared down from 500 down to 5. And they're like, hey, we don't like your show idea, but we love you. We love some of the elements of your idea. We want to give you the creative assignment. So for the next 5 years, we got called back for every creative assignment. Sometimes I only got paid like $100 to find the look, the style, the everything, the artist for other shows, not even my own. But I was like, whatever they want, I will do, because I want to show them my value. And it wasn't even about the money. It was about finding a way out of supervisor, right? Because that was always the problem, was what do I do when that happens? And so there was a point where I went into her office and I looked around, and every show on their slate I had touched in some form or another, whether it was finding the artist, pitching on it, working as the post to, everything in there. And I was like, holy cow. And so at one point, so that's all kind of going on. And it had gotten to the point where now I've got 2 kids. Oh, well, before that happened, I went back to this person's office, and as Nihao was wrapping and I got everything delivered, I said, thank you for everything. I want to continue to grow with the company. He says, I'm so glad you came to me. I have something in mind. I was like, all right, cool. I come back a couple months later, just want to check back in. And he says, we are getting more and more corporate here. You're a post supervisor. You've hit your glass ceiling. It's not a bad glass ceiling to be at, but you'll always be a post supervisor. And if you have a problem with that, you should just leave.
Business.
To which, I mean, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
To which I said, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate your time. I walked out, and I'm like, everything in me to not like rip a head off,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm pissed now, right? I censored myself for you there, Rico. And I remembered they had accidentally given my rights back on one of the projects we had developed. So,
oh my gosh.
Knocking on legal's door. Hey, I need you to put in writing that I actually have those rights back. Then I sat down, figured out the naming convention for Disney, and got the head of Disney on email.
You worked fast. You worked really fast. That type of stuff always reminds me of like Jerry Maguire, where he gets like let go, and then everybody calls up his client, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he had a breakdown." You're just like locking everything in.
Yeah, I was so pissed. And so that's how my ex-husband got a development deal at Disney. And then I came back and was like, I didn't necessarily feel as comfortable with the person as Disney as I did with the team at Nick Jr. And I was like, okay, full force, Nick Jr., I'm making a damn show, right? And on top of that, I now had 2 kids, and between just not including gas, not including food, just mortgage and childcare, I was in the hole every month coming to work. It cost me money to go to work. Who does that? Nobody.
That's a very honest statement. People they don't hear about that type of stuff.
No. And my CPA was like, listen, lady, you should just quit. You'll get back $25,000 a year in tax return. If you quit and stay home, then you're going into savings every month to go to work. And I was like, first of all, I really resent that I'm the woman and I'm the one who has to quit. But of course, he makes 3 times more than I do. So I guess I have to quit. But I was like, it was so hard to get to supervisor that the thought of like walking away from it made my stomach turn. So I gave myself a 1-year ultimatum. This is now, I want to say, 2012. I gave myself a 1-year ultimatum, and I was like, this is it, Farnas. All or nothing. You are either going to get a show made here, or you are just going to quit and you are going to stay home till the kids are a little bit bigger. And then you know what? You're going to start over in another industry. What's another thing you loved? Fashion. We're going to go into fashion design. I will be an assistant to someone and I will figure it out from scratch. Okay, forget it. Fuck it. Let's go. So that's what I did. And I had at one point, I was post soup on Dora. I was wrapping up Ni Hao. I was post soup on 13 comedy shorts, 2 pilots, one of which was Jorge Gutierrez, The Book of Life, like his. And then I had 2 projects of development of my own 2 shows running with Nick. No coordinator, no assistant. Everybody else had a coordinator and an assistant. And I was the only one married with kids. And I was just like, go, 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 go. And my neighbor, this one right here, he was like, I would come home, I get the kids, they'd be outside running around. I'd still be taking meetings with post facilities, moving like, trading days with other studios. And he looks at me and goes, gosh, you work a lot. Why do you work so much? And I said to him, Phil, because I can feel it. I'm right there. I just have to keep pushing and see what happens on the other side. And he just looked at me really confused. And I was like, I got no other choice. You know, we'll see what happens. And so it was less than a year later. And listen, I'm skipping the worst part. The worst part was they flew me in. So I was working on 2 projects and, working as the post soup on the shorts, I got to see behind the curtain. So I'd be in the meetings with the executives when they would talk about other show creators, right? And I was like taking notes for myself. And I was like, okay, wait, they liked that creator last week. And this week, they don't like that creator. Why? What happened? What did the creator do? Oh, the creator fought for their own passion. Well, is that a bad thing? Okay, hold on. So how do we reverse engineer this, right?
Every time I see they got let go for creative differences, I'm like, no.
So I learned watching that. I self-corrected at one point because I remember they would give me a note. I would do exactly the note and they'd go, well, this isn't working. And they'd tell me to, the next note they would give me would just change it back to what I already had. And instead of being like, I remember getting frustrated at one point and then I could see her frustration with me. And then I remembered the other show creators and being on the other side listening. And I was like, oh shit, I better course correct fast.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate job interview, right? Like when you're in those development stages, one of the things people don't realize is it's an interview. They want to see, they're about to hand you hundreds of millions of dollars. They want to know that they can trust you and that they can work with you, right? And that's the thing I think most people don't think about. We all think about it as like, this is my vision, this is my passion, this is what the story I want to tell. Yes, absolutely. But it's still a business. And they still have to make sure that you can follow certain rules and be a team player in the way that they need to be able to be a team player with you. But yeah, so once I started to kind of course correct some of that, and I started to do this like thing where, you do it in art class, but you forget to apply it to your creative in terms of like when you're pitching a show. I used to get a note, and this came from that. So I'd get a note and I'd be like, well, okay, so let's say the blue ball is blue and they're telling me to turn it to orange. But when I turn it orange, they're like, no, it's supposed to be red. Okay, stop. Don't do exactly what they say. But if they're stopping on this ball right here, then that means there's something wrong. The answer might not be the answer that they're giving me, but this means I have to pause here. So what I would do is I would literally physically put everything up on my computer screen and take a physical step back. Same way you would do like in art class when you're looking at your design and you need to go back in and fix it, you move away. If you're too close, you can't see, right? Yeah. So, and this was very, very key. And this is a big secret element here that most people never do. But that was key to remove yourself from those words on text. Don't take it so personal and go, okay, they keep bumping here. There's a problem here. It might be clear in my head, but those words on that page aren't painting the right picture. What do I do to adjust the color? So same way you would do it for your painting or drawing, you have to do it for that document too. That was, once I learned how to do that, that was what made all the difference in the world. But prior to that happening, I was working on another project with them. They flew me in and they said, and this goes back to your other question, that tenacity, that grit, that what it takes to make it. So, okay, imagine this. I'm going to pose this to you guys. You get flown in to New York. Okay, you ready?
First class.
Yes, of course. And, and you get flown in to come work on another project, right? And they sit you down. And here's what I'm going to say to you, okay? I'm the boss. You guys are me. You ready? So, Leonard, you've got great news.
Love it.
The big boss, the head of all Nickelodeon, loves your designs.
Nice. No revisions. That's incredible.
Loves your designs. But yeah, so we gave them to other people.
Okay. Oh, you gave them, like, they literally handed off to a different. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. By all means.
We gave them to other people.
Yeah.
And I just sat there.
Yeah. So then they take the credit. And
so then the pieces are connecting, and I go, wait, so am I competing against my own designs?
Yeah. Wow.
And then I go, excuse my language here. This is what I said to the exec. I looked up and went, that's fucked up. And she goes, we own it, Farnas. We can do whatever we want.
That is true.
Right?
It's very true. And I think also, like you were just saying, the business part of it, it's still a business.
Still a business.
At the end of the day, creative aside, like, you're doing something for somebody, they own it.
Yeah. And so then I had to think fast on my feet. Like, she left me in the room to take another meeting, and I got all my anger out, and then I sat back down. And so you know, I pitched her the idea. I was like, think, Farnas, like, think as fast as you can. I said, and when I looked around her office, everything in there I had touched in some capacity. I said, look, you obviously like my creative eye. You like what I bring to it. So how about this? You extend out the Nick Jr. division and you create a branch in LA, and I'll oversee it, and I'll bring you artists, and I'll find you.
There you go. Yeah.
They did end up they did end up doing that. But then I thought to myself, okay, what do you do? I mean, you can be angry, sure, it sucks, but it doesn't change what's already happened, right? So everybody always goes, how'd you come up with the idea for Shimmer and Shine? Like, vengeance. No, but it was like, that was actually when Shine was born. So originally it was just Shimmer. And I was like, all right, fine. Everybody's got an ego. Okay. We all know that. So
not us creatives. No, none of us. I've never met one artist.
None. I was like, so no one's going to take my design. They're all going to think they could do better than my design. And obviously they already like it. So dumb on you. I'm going to make her have a twin sister, and I'm going to make her grant wishes for a girl, not a boy. Now I'm going to have an army of these dang girls and nobody else will do that. And so that's what happened. And it was just like, go, 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 go. And even before we got to that phase, like before I even got pushed to the next round, I remember I woke up in the morning and I looked at my ex-husband. I was like, my whole world's about to change. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, the show's getting picked up and it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't get your hopes up, Farnas. That's how he liked to say my name. And I was like, this isn't my hopes. This is a fact. Like, the sky is I can feel it with every fiber of my being, every bone in my body. It's getting picked up and it's going to be massive. I didn't even have a pilot pickup at that point, but I knew it, could feel it.
Let me ask you a question. This is more of a personal one on my side, but I feel that like when they say you have a fire in your belly, people take it as just an expression, but it's a literal fire.
Yeah.
And it will completely like just destroy you. When you have those moments of, getting deflated or just this momentum that you were building just like completely just like falls apart.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, so I've had to learn this the hard way. And I used to speak with like the interns and stuff back at Nick, and they would always say, I go, what do you want to do? And they go, I want to do what you do. I'm like, what do you think I do? Right? Like, and I used to tell them, I was like, listen, here's what I'm going to ask you. You're going to be kind of making your way to try and get up this mountain. And you know what? When you fall, they're not going to put a hand out to help you get up. They're going to kick you, they're going to punch you, and they're going to spit on you while you're down there.
Oh, God.
The difference is, the question is, and the difference is, how do you react?
Mm-hmm.
Do you stay down or do you get back up? Because the only difference between failure and success is you. You got to decide that, right? So as long as it's within my means to get back up, I'm going to get the fuck back up, because if I don't, nobody else will, right? So
yeah,
there is really, in my opinion, no other choice. If your goal is X, then you got to keep moving towards X. And if you don't, then you've made an active decision not to. Then you've made the choice to quit. Yeah. So,
that seems like through your story, that's the theme. And that's like the thing that kept you going, like your drive and your desire to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I do want to get into Pitch Dox.
Yes.
Because like that now transition, I know we're skipping some things in there, but I want to make sure we get to this before we let you go. So I've been on one side of pitches in my time at Netflix. So how does Pitch Dox work? What does a agency like this do for people?
So when I was doing my own developing and pitching, like I started doing that as a coordinator. You couldn't just go up to whoever and just be like, hey, executive producer and creator of this, you've got time for me, right? To help me do what you do.
It doesn't work like that in the movies? What's that? What's to get off of?
Yeah. It's like, no, you can't.
In the bathroom, you find them in the bathroom and you just ask them.
Yeah. Hey, I've got an idea.
Overshared toilet paper. Go ahead.
And so, and then having been through it, I've been through it now on multiple sides. I've been through it from that side. I've been through it as an exec, and I've seen all these different angles of it. So after I created Shimmer and Shine, I went over to Braun and I worked as the SVP of creative and development and oversaw 3 active projects plus everything in development. Now, as in this new role, I'm overseeing everything in development plus the creative at Platinum. So it's I've been on both sides, being the one doing the pitching and being the one taking the pitches, right? Which gives me a very unique perspective. And the difference is, having been on the other side, I know what happens. If you're a first timer, you're not comfortable asking all of the questions that you want to ask. You don't have access to all of the folks that you want to be able to have access to. And they're going to pair you with someone more senior than you. If you're lucky enough to get your show made, they're going to pair you with someone. And guess what? Your dream come true can very quickly become your worst nightmare when you're paired with the wrong person. I can tell you that from experience too. And so, that was one of the things that kind of made me want to do this, that combined with a few other elements of our industry and how it's evolving and changing. But ultimately, I wanted to allow access to folks that are all really high level industry professionals. So if you look, the portfolio goes from executive producer of Ninja Turtles, the animated TV series, executive producer of the TV series Big Hero 6, Penguins of Madagascar, Monster High, executive producer of Disney's Shake It Up. It's all really high level industry professionals, anything from music to voiceover to writers, creators, producers, whatever you need for whatever element of your pitch and your process that you feel like you need help with. And that can range from anyone in terms of like students who are getting ready to come into the industry, who want to pick, like, you know, people who are newer to certain things, production assistants, whatever, right? Like myself back in the day, to even studios who are maybe, you know, I've been working with a couple studios who do a lot of stuff in live action, but are now transitioning over into animation, might not have access to all of those folks, right? So this just makes it really simple to get access to folks. And it's not like Cameo. It's kind of like a cross between Cameo and Fiverr, where it's like you can do a 20-minute consultation where you can just sit down and ask general questions,
Right.
or you can actually hire them to do stuff. So one of our guys is a biz dev artist, just recently got hired to do some artwork for somebody's pitch deck. So they're all on there and available for work for hire as well.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Wow.
Because they already know the process of what it needs to look like. Look at you, one-stop shop.
So, and what we want, you know, what I'd like to do is right now, obviously, a lot of the folks are very animation based because that is my background. And those are the people that I know. And everybody on there has been vetted by me in some capacity. So, but eventually I want to build out our live action Rolodex as well as, you know, TV and movie and gaming, so that this could be essentially your hub and destination that you go to. And I'd like for it to ultimately become, because our industry is so out of sight, out of mind, but a visual Rolodex where studios could go and be like, oh yeah, so-and-so, we can have them help us on this project.
Yeah.
Which has already started happening.
They love pitching.
Yeah, they do. And I think this year's a little funky, but next year they're going to be ready. So now's the time to prep your deck, right?
Yeah, I love how it's even, you even have a log line almost already for it. It's like when pitching meets Fiverr and Cameo, that's essentially what pitch does.
Essentially, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nice. And if people want to, like, how can they find out more about Pitch Dox? And is there anything they need to prepare before working with you? Or is like anyone like, hey, I just have an idea. If I just have an idea, are people on there ready to work with me?
Yeah, there's tons of people on there ready and willing and to work. It's up to you at what stage you want to bring them in. Like some folks, we've got one person who reached out recently who is just getting together their query letters for
oh man, query letters, guys.
And so
tell me about it.
Yeah.
Run through some of that. We've got some people who are actually building their artwork now. We've got there's another one coming in who reached out, but they want to get their deck more polished before they get like final revision notes on it. So it's really up to the person, but I would suggest at least having like a general log line or premise, something that people can bounce off stuff. Because obviously their work for hire, we've got NDAs in place. So whatever you come in and pitch, you own. But if you're asking them to come up with the idea for you, that's not what this is about. Like it's got to be your idea, because rights stay with you.
That's so big.
Yes.
That is huge.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at you. Giving the rights to the artists.
I'm trying to be.
Yeah, look at that.
Well, it's also, I mean, from your decades of experience, all the things where you were done dirty, you're like, I need to make sure that this doesn't happen to all these other people, right? So it's a great business model, and it's a great service for folks who don't want to be like lose rights, right?
Yeah.
Or like
that would be my biggest fear, is to come in and be like, oh, I'm going to lose.
That's not your IP. That's my IP.
No, everything's already written. I've got all the legal paperwork. It states very clearly that the client is the owner of the IP.
Wow.
Right? So, you know, if you start to get to a place, I mean, listen, it's going to depend on the two and where they take it with each other and what they do. But this is the intent. The intent is we are just work for hire. It is your idea. You
Right.
hire us to help you with a piece of it, and then we pass it on off back over to you. Now, let's say you and I love each other. You love what I'm bringing to it, and I love your project, and we want to have a bigger, more meaningful collaboration, then that's a separate conversation, and you all do your legal however you want to do your legal, right? That's a completely separate thing outside of what we're doing. But the idea is to connect new talent potentially to industry professionals, and industry professionals to new and up and coming ideas, right? So if you come in and you've got an idea, we've been working together back and forth for however long, we love working together. Well, if your thing gets greenlit, you already know who you want to work with. Yeah, I'm going to bring in so-and-so, and so-and-so's already likes this project. So you guys
can push people in the right direction because you're already connected with them, and they'll be able to give more accreditation to particular brandings or different outlets and things like that. So I think that's where, like, if me as a third person would be afraid to feel like, oh, I want to work with Simon and Schuster. Are they more like Simon and Shasty? Like, what's going on here? Joke there. Yes, I had that like preloaded.
You're ready.
But you would be able to say like, oh, I've never heard of this company, or let me do a little bit of digging, and you'd be able to give part of that as in your consultation and everything.
Yeah, and even if it's just a matter of just like, I've had some people ask questions that they work in animation, right? But in a different country. And they have access to folks in the US, and how do they get to certain things, right? And there's a lot and that was another part of this, is being in this circle of all of these things. There's a lot we take for granted, as like the information that we know, we just know because we've been in it. But when you start to talk to people who are like adjacent, they don't even know the step to kind of make the switch over to the other side, right? So, and again, the more I talk to people who are kind of like adjacent, the more I'm like, oh, wow, I take for granted all of this knowledge and all of this access to all of these folks. Like, this is not something I ever really thought I would have.
Yeah, it's amazing how it's really true when they say it's really your network that helps you build whatever it is you're building. So we're coming at time, but there's a couple things that I want to mention. We need to have you back because, like, as you were talking, there was a lot of stuff about sexism, access, classism that you talked about that I think people would want a larger conversation with. So, like, hopefully we can have you back for that.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about sexism on another?
Yeah. Two things to close us out. One is, what advice would you give your younger self or anyone coming up in the industry? And then the second one is, what is one maybe guilty pleasure that people would be shocked to find out about you?
Guilty pleasure.
The first one is, what advice would you give? And then the guilty pleasure.
Okay, so what advice would I give my younger self? This is actually a really hard one, because you always tell yourself, oh, correct this, correct that, but I don't really believe that. I believe all of our mistakes serve a purpose as long as we're willing to learn from them, right? So as long as we're willing to learn from them and adjust, I guess the one thing that I would say, maybe don't feel so afraid to ask for help. I think I was really afraid to speak up about certain things and ask for help when I needed help. But I don't know that I would still do it any different, because that it would mean so much of my past would have to change for me to feel comfortable asking for help, right? So, but if I could try to get myself to do it, I would try.
It could even be like, from what I've heard from your stories, like, just stay the course.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I always have stayed the course. I guess the one thing I would tell myself, I know what I would tell myself. They're not thinking about you, okay? Don't worry about it so much.
That is a great coaching moment. When I tell folks, I always say this caveat with, like, this is going to sound terrible, but you're not the center of the universe.
Exactly.
And the way I illustrate this is, if you're having a bad hair day, the person that you think's looking at you thinks you're looking at their zit.
Yep.
They're not thinking about what's going on with you. They're projecting their insecurities on everyone else
100.
because of that.
Yeah, and
So
I would
true.
say I wasted a lot of time worrying about stuff that nobody else even noticed. So I guess who cares?
Yeah. Or when you worry about things that haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be, I guess, the one piece of advice I would give myself. And my guilty pleasure. Okay, so I mean, my guilty pleasure, I guess, is movies. I'm like obsessed, and I will watch the same damn movie a million times over and over because I am 100% a Dory. Like,
Ah.
where since I was little, even like my brothers and I would fight, and they'd be like, "You've already seen this movie." I'm like, "Stop ruining the ending!" And they're like, "No, you know the ending." I'm like, "I have not." So I could watch Beetlejuice 586 million times and it's still like the first time every time. So I love that. I mean, and like right now I'm like, this sounds so cheesy, but I think Tina Fey is brilliant and I'm watching Girls Five Eva.
I just started watching that, and it's so good.
I'm watching it right now. They're so cute. She does such a good job of making like simple, understandable, relatable, likable characters. And I'm like,
Yeah,
this is the cheesiest fucking theme song, and it's
yeah.
brilliant.
Forever's too short. Forever's too short.
Yeah, and now I'm like, that's what I'm gonna start saying from now on, Five Eva.
Yeah.
No one's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way? What's the quickest way for people to get a hold
So
of
the
you?
best way, if you want anything, Pitch Dox related, is to email us at info@thepitchdox.com. And if you go to the website, thepitchdox.com, it'll have access to our email there. We also have LinkedIn and Instagram, but the best way is via email. So info@thepitchdox.com.
Nice.
Well, you have certainly showed that it takes chutzpah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. In spades for sure. And thank you so much for joining us
Thank you
and
guys.
taking the time out of your day. All right, everyone. This is another episode of Creative Chutzpah in the Books. I'm Rico Nasal. He's Leonard Samuels. Faraz, thank you for joining us. Have an amazing day, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Creative Chutzpah. Hope you enjoyed it. I think you did. I saw a few smiles over there. All right. And make sure you turn into Rico Nasal's Creative Leadership with Heart. All right. He's pretty good. Okay. Give him a chance too. All right. And we'll see you next time. And make sure you nosh on something. You're too skinny. You're too skinny. Get out there and eat. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.